So last week we looked at creation, the beginning. And in the beginning we were fearfully and wonderfully made with absolute care and precision, formed and created from the dust of the earth by the very hands of God, and life was breathed into us by the breath of God, his Rosh, the breath of God. It is wind, spirit, life. It is not so much a physical force, but the essence of God that he breathed into us. God's essence that sustains life, the essence of a father breathing into his son. Yes? That's who we are. In Genesis 2:8, this is after the creation, the Lord planted a garden eastward of Eden, and there he put man whom he had formed. And out of the ground the Lord made every tree grow that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life was also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Did you know that there are estimated anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000 different kinds of fruit trees that bears fruit? So in perspective, if you were to eat from 3 different fruit-bearing trees every single day, it would take you 1.5 to 2 years to try each and every one of these fruits. That's a lot of trees. That's a lot of fruits. That's a lot of Daniel's fast right there. Now, this is an assortment that we would be able to choose from, and some of us would be happy. In Genesis 2:16 through 17, and God commanded man, saying, "Of every tree in the garden you may freely eat. There's no restrictions. They are all at your disposal to enjoy and partake of as you will. But of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, this one single tree you shall not eat. For in the day you eat, you shall surely die." And of course, we know that that means a separation, a tear between us and the Lord, right? In Genesis 3, whenever they were tempted, Satan said, "For God knows that in the day you eat, your eyes will be open, and you will be like God." Question, were we already like God? Yes, we were. But there's one little small aspect of it, knowing good and evil. He is saying, there is something that you don't know. We are actually, was created like God, but there was one thing that we was unaware of, good and evil. Then the eyes of both of them were open, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made for themselves coverings. Number one, before they tasted of this fruit of good and evil, they didn't know they were naked. They had no clue. It was irrelevant. So the first thing they did is they tried to hide themselves. They tried to cover themselves up because all of a sudden there was this awareness that some things are good and some things are evil. And in verse 8 of Genesis 3, it says, after this they heard a voice of the Lord walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord among the trees of the garden. In 9, then the Lord calls to Adam and said, "Where are you?" He never had to ask Adam before this moment, "Where are you?" They were always exposed before the Lord, right? And in 11, the Lord said, "Who told you that you were naked? Where did you even get this information? Was we not created in the image and the likeness of God? Were we not beautiful? Did he not accept us? But who told you that there was a flaw? Who told you? How do you know this?" Before eating from this tree, there was no awareness of nakedness. There was no awareness of separation, no awareness of hiding from God. There was no awareness of evil. Can you imagine? Wouldn't that be awesome? Of course, we might say to ourselves, well, I wouldn't have ate from the tree. Yes, you would. Yes, you would. Eventually, each and every one of us would have reached up and grabbed it. Who are we kidding? So we're not going to point the fingers like they did in the garden. Well, she, well, he, well, that. I wouldn't have. Yes, we would. But there was no awareness of evil. In Romans 3:20, Paul said, through the law comes the knowledge of sin. It's interesting, huh? And in Romans 4:15 it says, where there is no law, neither is there a violation. Romans 5:13 it says, sin is not impugned when there is no law. Interesting, isn't it? So, if there was no awareness of evil, could there be evil? I guess that's a question, huh? If they would not have ever plucked from that tree of good and evil, would there have actually been good and evil? Would it exist? Well, according to Paul in the law, if there is no law, there is no infraction. Interesting, huh? So what was it like before they grabbed hold of that fruit? It's just good and holy. It was right. So before the tasting of this fruit of good and evil, there was no good and evil in the reality that they lived. It was simply a reality of existence, of purity and trust. So by eating from this tree of good and evil, man and woman placed themselves in a state of slavery to good and evil. A place of striving, a place of nakedness, a place of separation, a place of conviction and condemnation. So you may be asking, why was the tree even planted there? Some of us know this. Number 1, choice. Number 2, free will. And number 3, love. Let's not forget that God created us in His likeness and image, and this does include free will and the ability to make choices. Can God make choices? Absolutely. He chose to create us. He gave us dominion as part of our inheritance. Do we remember speaking about that last week? As our inheritance, dominion. How could we have dominion without the ability to make decisions and choices? Without this ability, we would not have had dominion, but rather slavery, right? And He did not want slaves. He wanted sons that walked in an inheritance. See, whenever I started looking at the trees, because the Lord kind of gave me some themes, and this has been on my mind all week. It's like, trees, what the world does that have to do with sonship? We're going to get to all that. Love. Perfect love shared is not forced, but rather a free will, yes? Randy, you going to make Carol love you? That ain't going to work so well. But do you enjoy that she freely loves you? Doesn't that change things? But it's shared. This is the love that the Father wants with His sons, not forced, but rather freely exchanged. Now say, God is good. And through this entire series, I want you to memorize those 3 words. Can we do it? What are those 3 words? Memorize it. Let it soak in. Because that is vital to sonship. We cannot help but to say, all the time. And all the time. Amen. All right. Moving on. But then the Lord did something. Then the Lord said, behold, the man has become like one of us. Who's He speaking to? Exactly. And he loves communion with His kind, His image, and His likeness. Right? We spoke about that last week. So the Lord is talking to Himself. To know, the man has become like us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put out his hand and also take of the tree of life and eat and live forever. So He drove out man, and He placed a cherubim at the east of the Garden of Eden, and a flaming sword which turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life. Well, if God is so good, why did he drive him out from the garden? It says, behold, man has come like us. He now knows good and evil. He now took that fruit and he tasted it. Now, lest he put out his hand, take also the tree of life and eat and live forever. Man fell whenever he tasted of the tree of good and evil. So he drove out man, and he placed cherubim at the east of the garden, and the flaming sword which turned every way to guard that tree. Man knows good and evil. Let's get him out of this garden, lest he eat from the tree of life and live forever. This driving out was not out of anger. It was coming from a place of pure and devoted love toward man. My son and daughter are now in a fallen state. They are now separated from me. And if they eat from the tree of life now, they will live forever in this fallen place, separated from me. I can't have this. I will not settle for this. Do we see the Lord's love and his compassion and his long suffering there by driving man out? Let's get them out right here, right now, and send a flaming sword to guard the garden so that they can never get to this tree and eat of its fruit and remain in this fallen state, because they will live forever separated from us. Why did God create us? To have communion and fellowship. And if we would have been separated forever, there would not have been any communion and fellowship with the Father. So say, God is good. All right, you're doing good. So what happened to this tree that was in the garden? God is so good that he kept it. He kept the tree. And it pops up in Revelation 22, 1 through 3. And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding from the throne of God and of the Lamb. In the middle of its street and on either side of the river was the tree of life, which bore 12 fruits, each yielding its fruit each month. So there the tree is again. The word says that Jesus came in to seek and to save that which was lost. Anyone of us been there? That which was fallen, that which was separated. He came to bring restoration. He came to repair the breach, to remove that veil that hides the tree of life. So where is this tree of life? Let me ask you this. Where are we seated? Where's the tree of life? Isn't that interesting? The Father is okay with us, his sons, eating from this tree of life in a redeemed state every day, and not some minutes of the day, but all day long. But he doesn't want us eating of this tree in a fallen state. Amen? The word says we are free from the law of sin and death. In other words, we are permitted and encouraged to eat from this tree of life. The tree that is life-giving and life-sustaining, the tree of eternal communion with the Father. Well, this is old news. Well, we'll get someplace here in a moment, because I've seen it in action this week, and it's crazy beautiful. Yet we still eat from the tree of good and evil. It is preached about more than the tree of life. Think about it. It's preached about more than the tree of life. Eat this fruit. Don't eat that fruit, etc., etc. We spend so much time and energy inspecting fruit, and others' fruit, that we are starving as fruit inspectors. We take the fruit, we pluck it, we carve it, we analyze it, and we inspect it. Is it good or is it bad? Do we do that? Yes, we do. And the whole time the Lord has been drawing, wooing, and calling us to dine on the tree of life. The whole time the Lord is saying to his sons, will you take this fruit of life? Will you dine upon it? Will you taste my goodness? Will you satisfy your desire? We are so caught up in the can and can'ts that it becomes a burden that no one can carry. Jesus said, take my yoke upon you, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Did he say that? Okay, so sometimes whenever we're struggling with this and that and back and forth, is that a light burden or is it a heavy burden? It's heavy, it is exhausting. But Jesus said his burden, his yoke was easy and his burden is light. So if this is true, why does it feel so hard and heavy? I have seen these burdens being placed or demanding upon people from leaders and fellow believers. I have seen the heavy weights and strains being applied upon shoulders. These same weights have been applied to my shoulders as well, but there was just something deep within my spirit that just didn't set well with me. You ever been there? It's like, this is what I'm being forced, this is what I'm being told, this is what I'm being pushed to. But why does my spirit feel a little heavy about this? There was something that said, this is not the fragrance of Christ. This is not the character of the Father's heart. We always have to, what does Jesus smell like? What does he look like? What is the Father's heart? That should be our baseline. This is our baseline. This is his heart given to us. But perhaps we view it with the wrong glasses sometimes. And he gave this to me. Listen, religion teaches from the tree of good and evil. Freedom teaches from the tree of life. Think about that. Let that set in. Is any of this true, or am I just blowing? I'm going to tell you a little bit something about these two different trees and an experience I had this week with someone. They came in heavily burdened, in tears. I don't know if I am saved. I don't know if I'm where I'm supposed to be. I don't know this. I don't know this. I look over here. Is this how I'm supposed to be? Is that how I'm supposed to be? You know, the weights that we throw on one another. The weights from the tree of good and evil that is thrown on people. Just absolute confusion. Weeping. But then I started sharing some of this truth. Sharing some of this life. Sharing some of this truth. What does the Word say? Who is the Lord to you? How does he feel about you? What does he know about you? And all of a sudden, this burden, you could almost hear the shackles, I'm exaggerating, falling to the ground. Then all of a sudden, they got to this place where the Father just reached around this individual, grabbed them, loved them, and tears just started flowing. Because truth was spoken. Restoration was spoken. Not the do's and don'ts and all that other nonsense. The tree of life was presented to this person. Sonship, exactly what we've been talking about, was presented. And it dropped the burdens off of their ankle. It was God stepped in the room. It was the Father. There is an easier way. We complicate things. We muddy up the water. Religion has muddied up the water. How many times, how many times has good and evil been preached versus life? What is the good news? The good news isn't good and evil. Good news is there is a tree of life that we can freely eat from. Some of this is brand new. As I'm traveling, the Lord is just showing me. It's like, wow, I've seen this, but I haven't seen this. Now, can you also explain, not only did she receive freedom, not only did this person receive freedom, but they walked in with back pain and walked out healed. Explain that. Maybe the Lord, by plucking this fruit from the tree of life and taking it in and allowing the father to touch his child, that he healed her spiritually, physically, and mentally all in one shot. That's a possibility. Or I could have led him through the do's and don'ts. We could have did the whole sinner's prayer thing. We could have went through this, and we could have done this and that, and so on and so forth, and still walk out confused, injured, and comparing themselves to someone else. Just a brief sidetrack. Why do we compare ourselves with others? We get bound up whenever we compare ourselves with others. How did they fall? Trying to be like God when they already were. A comparison. Randy, you're Randy. I'm John. Enjoy life. I'm going to. Right? But that is a trap when we look at someone else. Maybe I'm not where they are. Maybe they're not where you are. You don't know at the end of the day. I'm not going to eat someone else's fruit. I get to walk up to that tree and grab it myself. You get to walk up and grab it yourself. You know how much damage has come from teaching on the wrong tree versus the right tree. My goodness, I wish a lot of this stuff would have been thrown at me years ago. Like I was saying, we make it through this and we truly absorb it. We're going to see more healings, deliverance, salvations, all these things. We're going to see more abundance in our life if we take hold of this. I guarantee it. Like I said, at the end, I want testimonies. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're not out fishing, you ain't going to catch any fish either. Right? I think they're right, Cal. You have to go fishing to catch fish. You have to go out, go grab that testimony so you have one to bring to the body. That's a challenge. I believe we're going to have fun, church. We're going to have fun. But religion teaches from the tree of good and evil. Freedom teaches from the tree of life. The word says, most translations, the truth will set you free. Isn't that what most translations says? The King James and the New King James says this, the truth will make you free. I'm not plugging for King James, but that's what it says. The truth will make you free. Did you know that there is a difference between setting and making, though? There is too much setting and not enough making. There's too much setting free and not enough making free. What? Set means to allow or to move locations, right? Make means to create something new, build or construct. Think about this. See, you can set something in a different place. You can move something to another place. You can resituate someone from one place to another, yet they can still be in the same state. Yes? You can set a prisoner free from prison, but that does not mean that they have left mentally. Right? Hence, institutionalized, they go out, they have to get back because although they're not sitting in that cell, they're still there. So there's a difference between setting and making. But to make someone free is to create someone different. Right? If you have to continually set people free, something is wrong. It's amiss. They have not tasted of the fruit of life, the tree of life. Israel was set free from Egypt, yet it was not made free. How many times did the people say, let's go back to Egypt, let's go back to bondage? Were they liberated from Egypt? They were set free, but they were not made free. They wanted to go back. They moved from one location to another. However, their minds, hearts, and wills did not go with them. It was so integrated within them so badly that they went as far as to create a God of their own understanding, a God so small that if they would have went back into captivity, they could take this little false image with them. Yes? What'd they do? They had a God. They made it. Okay, now it's small enough. My heart is still in Egypt. I've been set free because I'm not in Egypt. But if I do go back, guess what? I can take this God right along with me, and I can stay in captivity. I can stay in bondage. I can stay a slave, but I still have my God with me. Oh, it's too much. They had the opportunity to be made free. If they would have went up the mountain and encountered the Lord for themselves, but they did not desire to have a personal encounter. They preferred an ambassador go for them. Look at your word. All of Israel was invited to go up the mountain to eat from the tree of life. But because the Lord seen their heart, he said they better not even come up this mountain. He already knew. But it was available. Because of this, God would not allow them to approach the mountain because they would be consumed because their hearts condemned them. Their lips served him and loved him, but their hearts were far from him. And the Lord God called to Adam, and he said, "Where are you?" And the Father is still calling his sons, "Where are you?" Slaves still eat from the tree of good and evil. Sons have learned to eat from the tree of life. That's what we're shooting for. The sons of God will know to eat at the Father's table. The tree of life is the banquet table in the Father's house. Come on. What's the wedding meal we're going to eat? I'm just throwing this stuff out there because my imagination's kind of going crazy now. Okay, I won't need morel mushrooms, my ribeye and my crab legs. I'll be able to take that fruit right then, and we're all going to have a heck of a time. Just fellowshipping in the presence of the Lord forever. And we'll get to visually look at this tree. What does it look like, I wonder? Anyway, moving on. The prodigal that returned to his father's house did not eat in the barn with the servants when he returned to the father's house. He ate at the banquet table with the Father. I see so many believers that are walking on eggshells, walking in fear, walking in doubt, walking in bondage and captivity. This is not living this life. This is not freedom. Because the Word says where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Freedom is life, and that is found at the tree of life, not the tree of good and evil. Our focus is our reality. We've spoken that quite a few times. Our beholding is our becoming. What we think about comes about. As a man thinks, so he is. What we profess is our reality. According to your faith, may it be done unto you. Are we seeing some sort of a theme here? So which tree does your faith carry you to? Is it the tree where the slaves and servants eat? Or is it the table where the sons eat? Fellowship and commune with the Father and fellow brothers. He's calling us higher. He's calling us to new places. He said, come up. Enough with the striving. Enough. If we're busy striving in this walk, we're not about his business. Period. We can't be, what's the word say? A double-minded man is double-minded in all of his ways. So if I'm struggling to walk this walk, and I'm trying to do his will, which should be life and freedom, struggle, freedom. Guess what? I am a double-minded man, and I'm unstable over here, and I'm unstable over here. So I can't actually be about his business. I can pretend a whole lot, but until we take and truly dive into life, and what's Greg been saying? Every single time that we gather together, every single time the Lord's presence is here, it is not to be common, even whenever we gather for worship. But that is our opportunity to dine at the tree of life. And it's not to take it lightly. Whenever we gather as brothers and sisters, this is an opportunity. It's not a something to do. The King of Kings is in our midst. The tree of life is planted. I've seen this. The tree of life is planted in the center of this room. And each one of us should walk right up to that tree at the same time and say, yes, Father, fill me. Fill me with your goodness. Fill me with your truth. Then we'll go on to real worship. Okay, side note. I've been doing a lot of side notes this morning. But no, it's not common. We have a Father in heaven that loves us. On Friday evening during worship, I was sitting over there and I just glanced around the room. And the Lord showed me everyone that was here, and of course everyone here today, how absolutely valuable and precious you are. I mean, I'm not talking a little bit, Greg. How truly, truly valuable and irreplaceable you and every single one is. How vital each one of us is to the kingdom. How vital we are to his family. And if we could get the Father's eyes and start looking at one another like that, our love would explode. It would be uncontainable, this love and affection that we have for one another. But whenever we look at one another and criticize and ridicule and all this other nonsense, that is so far from the Father's heart. That's that serpent that was winding around that other tree, causing the fall. But the love that he has for us is so deep, it's so incomprehensible. So whenever he gives us a little bitty, even a taste or a glimpse at how he views us or others, we should cherish those moments. Because that's his road sign saying, this is who you are. This is where I want my body to go. And whenever we all gathered up and prayed, once the prayers started coming, whenever we started praying for one another, the power of God filled the house. And I could feel the smoke arising because we were praying for one another. We were eating from the right tree. Another side note. So with all this being said, does this mean that there is no good and evil and I can do whatever I want to do? What would Paul say? I should have Paul preach the rest of this now. He would say absolutely not. Get a clue? If you're truly eating at the tree of life, you will not fulfill the lust of this flesh because you are walking in the Spirit. Partaking of the Spirit. If you are fulfilling the lust of the flesh, you are deceiving yourself and the truth is not in you, because the truth makes you free, not sets you free, makes you free. Sons of God walks as sons of God. Thank you. Sons walk as sons. Oh, final thoughts. You know, they say that shot that came out a few years ago changed the DNA. You know, we're worried about our DNA getting changed and all that stuff, right? Everybody's worried about their DNA. Just a thought. Because what enters our body actually goes into our bloodstream, right? So if you eat too many tacos, your blood is probably dripping taco sauce. So what enters us, right? So whenever Adam and Eve took of that fruit and they ate of it, did that not enter their bloodstream? So it changed them. They were no longer pure because they ate from the wrong tree. No longer pure. And of course, blood, it continues on through the generations, right? So that very same juice from that fruit is still in mankind's DNA. Right? So, has anyone ever had to teach their kids how to be bad? Why? Because there's something in the bloodstream. And we all, through our whole life, has known good and evil, correct? Being taught or not being taught, it does not matter. Because it is what? It is within us. It's part of us. Interesting, isn't it? The word says, make, not set. The truth shall make you free. Jesus is the truth. The word says, therefore, if any man is in Christ, he is what? A new creation. The old is gone and the new has come. We have been sprinkled with the blood of the Lamb, yes? Made clean and white as snow. Our blood was restored with Christ's blood. We are clean because the words spoken over us. All of this means that our DNA or our blood has been cleansed in Christ. Therefore, we are able to partake of the tree of life. So why eat from any other source and why return to Egypt? We are sons of God and our identity is our authority. So what all this is saying is because we had contaminated blood, Jesus gave us a blood transfusion, which means we are not in a fallen state anymore, which means we can grab from the tree of life, freely eat, and there we are.
Eat his flesh, drink his blood.
Yes.
Perfect. It's like the tree of good and evil never existed. Like I say, whenever I started this, the Lord, it's like, this doesn't make any sense. He has restored us to perfect sonship. Perfect sonship. Perfect blood. We are the righteousness now. But we have to believe it. We got to quit over here worrying about this other stupid tree, that religious tree. Whenever we're out speaking to people, start speaking the tree of life over them. Show them the tree of life. Enough with the you can and can'ts. Who cares? That's what kept me away from the Lord for 25 years. You mean I got to change before I enter his throne room? Well, guess what? I can't, so I guess here I am. Here, have another beer. Come on. No, walk them up to the tree of life and say, take this fruit and partake of something that will bring you life, and watch what happens. Watch the healings come. Watch the salvation come. Watch the restoration come. The church needs to burn the other tree. It's firewood. I'm done. Church, let us be filled to the utmost, to the max. Let's go beyond what we've been taught. Because the more I'm walking in, it's like, slow down, Lord. Because it is basically a washing all over again, a cleansing. Eyes brand new all over again. And he is saying, rise up, my sons. Step into your true identity, your authority. Quit carrying these weights that so easily beset you. And some of these weights is our doctrine and our theology and this nonsense, this religious stuff. I was going to share something else, but no. Okay. I was going to save this for another part of this. But he's trying to restore the innocence of his relationship with man. Because if we go back long before Moses, what was the relationship that Abraham, Isaac, it was one-on-one. There was no religion. There was nothing for them to go by. So it was God's personal encounter upon them. And the Lord is saying, okay, we need to wipe everything from this moment all the way over to this moment, throw it away, because it's all being restored. It's the one-on-one. It's the I don't know nothing and I don't have to know anything, but I see you and I'm following you, and that's good with me.